Good evening, I'm John Carter and welcome to Poland Daily. Discussion about the documentary published on YouTube by the Sekielski brothers on Saturday continues. The documentary, titled Just Don't Tell Anyone, tackles the problem of sexual abuse by priests. According to commentators, the film could be a chance to purify the church. Others have noted that the film plays into the narrative an attack on the Catholic Church over recent months.
The documentary has been commented on by many of the clergy. Most priests talk of great pain.
Enormous pain for these horrible crimes, because that's how they must be referred to as pedophilia crimes, crimes against love that cannot be justified. I wholeheartedly believe that this film can do much good in the church if used in the right way, but on the other hand, we must defend ourselves from falling into the trap of complete mendacity.
Publicist Tomasz Terlikowski says the film gives victims a much-needed voice, although also has many sensationalist elements.
Widzimy ich emocje, widzimy ich twarze.
For the first time, we see the victims in such great intensity. We don't just read about them or hear about them, but we see their faces, their emotions, and above all, we see the perpetrators, many in the final years of their lives, who probably still don't realize the magnitude of what they have done. In this sense, it is a moving film. Of course, there are elements of emotional manipulation. It isn't known why Tomasz Sekielski doesn't arrange a meeting at the Redemptoris Mater Seminary, instead choosing to ride in unannounced and gather comments on the go. It's unknown why he doesn't meet with any bishops. It could be they all refuse to talk to him, but this isn't made clear.
Some are of the opinion that celibacy is one of the causes of pedophilia in the Catholic Church.
Celibacy has been around for about 1,000 years, or even longer for monks, and it doesn't change anything. These cases also exist in other environments where such an oath isn't taken, so I wouldn't blame everything on celibacy.
In a statement published after the premiere of the film, Archbishop Wojciech Polak apologized to the victims of sexual abuse.
The Polish Ministry of Foreign Affairs has cancelled the visit of a delegation from the Israeli government. The reason for the cancellation was a change of agenda from the Israeli side. The Israeli delegation suggested a willingness to talk about the restitution of the heirless property of the Jewish Holocaust victims. Despite the fact that the Polish government finds the matter lawless, the case still causes a lot of controversy.
As the Polish Ministry of Foreign Affairs says, the Israeli side has changed its delegation team at the last minute. The new team wanted to touch on the subject of restitution of heirless property of Jewish Holocaust victims. This is the reason for the Polish side cancelling the meeting. It causes more tension between Poland and Israel concerning the matter of the heirless properties. Cookies 15 movement politicians appealed to the Law and Justice Party for support for a bill to protect Poland against claims like this one. Confederation politicians claim that the ruling party is liable in this matter, while Civic Platform politicians say the cancellation of the visit was a mistake and that Poland should have made its position on this matter known. Ruling party politicians say it was the right decision and that Poland's stance in this matter is clear.
Every meeting is a bilateral meeting and can touch on an important subject for one of the sides. In this case, we should respond to the other side, not run away from it. Mr. Kaczynski, please don't be afraid of the Cookies 15 movement. Be afraid of your own voters. Please don't be afraid of the United States and Israel. It isn't right when Israel dictates the agenda of the meeting with the representatives of the Polish government. The visit was planned a long time ago. Both sides knew its agenda. The Polish Ministry of Foreign Affairs found out about the agenda change in the last minute. This is not diplomacy. In this situation, the cancellation of the meeting was a good decision. The tensions are completely normal when it comes to international relations. We will be defending our national interests strictly.
During the Law and Justice Party conference held in Putus, Polish Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki announced that there will be an answer to this matter and that the Law and Justice Party will find a legal solution. Law and Justice politicians have assured that we will find out about it in the next few days.
A project of a report concerning the damages dealt to Poland during the Second World War was given to the highest-ranking Polish officials. According to the estimates found in the report, Germany owes Poland as much as $1 trillion.
The report is the result of 2 years of work by the Parliamentary Committee for the Estimation of Compensation Germany owes Poland for the damage caused in the Second World War. A document was created which comprehensively estimates the losses suffered by the Polish Republic during the Second World War, a document that accurately depicts the entirety of the destruction from very different perspectives, of course those which can be estimated in any way. In 1947, in the report published by the Office of War Compensation, Polish losses were estimated at $48 billion, which currently amounts to $850 billion. The latest calculations indicate that this amount could exceed $1 trillion. This is the sum of calculations made in several areas. The largest part of it is the demographic losses associated with the loss of human lives. We also tried to calculate losses related to movable property and properties of the Polish army, railway stations, post offices, government administration, forestry, airports, hangars, etc. In total a huge scale, but interestingly, in our report they constitute only a dozen or so % of all Polish losses. Losses associated with cultural goods are a separate element of our report, one which was also very difficult to calculate. The Germans destroyed everything: education, museology, historic architecture, archives, literature, theatre, music, fine arts. They decided to wipe everything related to Polish culture off the face of the earth. It was a systemic action, totally contrary to many international conventions. Mularczyk said the committee aims to publish the report on World War II reparations on September 1st, the 80th anniversary of the outbreak of the Second World War.
Mark Zuckerberg, the head of the social media giant Facebook, has lauded the efforts of French President Emmanuel Macron to legislate against so-called online hate speech. Zuckerberg met with Macron following the publication of a report commissioned by the French president, recommending closer monitoring of Facebook and measures to crack down on hate speech. Zuckerberg argues the report should be a model for the entire EU to follow. But critics say that the legislative campaign against hate speech is just a thinly veiled attempt to silence conservative voices online.
Facebook's Mark Zuckerberg hailed France's efforts to regulate hateful content online as a model for the European Union after meeting President Emmanuel Macron in Paris. What are the new rules and regulations that we can put in place? Because I don't actually believe that a private company should be making all these decisions by ourselves. And even in the countries where there isn't going to be a regulatory framework like the one here in France, we are still taking steps to set up an oversight bureau that, you know, if you're a member of this community and you think that your content's been taken down unfairly, you get to appeal. Zuckerberg's meeting with Macron coincided with the release of a report commissioned by the French leader recommending increased oversight of Facebook and an independent regulator to police the efforts of large tech companies to deal with hate speech. I think we should have a more robust democratic process, and that's why it's important for our team to be working with President Macron's government to put in place, is that we're responsible for making sure that harmful content isn't on our services, but at the end of the day, we believe that there needs to be a public process to determine what is harmful and to oversee our systems to make sure that we're doing a good job of that. The cooperation between Zuckerberg and Macron has been interpreted by some commentators as just another alliance between leading social media firms and left-wing governments to remove their most effective critics.
Thank you very much for joining me here this evening at Poland Daily. I'm John Carter. Stay tuned after the break for Poland Daily Weather. It's followed by the business, history, culture and finally the travel.
I'm Aleksandra Zarzycka and welcome to Poland Daily Weather. Let's take a look at the forecast for tonight. An overcast night across the country with temperatures ranging between 3 degrees in Szczecin to 11 degrees in Katowice. In central Poland, temperature will range from 5 to 7 degrees. Some rainfall is expected on the northeast and on the south. And now over to tomorrow. Heavy rainfall will be on the south, but otherwise it will be a very sunny day. Little rainfall is expected around Łódź, Poznań and Zielona Góra. Plenty of sunlight will appear along the Baltic coast. Temperature will range from 9 degrees in Gdańsk to 18 in Lublin and Białystok. Let's see the forecast for the following 3 days. Wednesday will be a stormy day on Eastern Poland. A maximum 20 degrees will be in Rzeszów. Some mixed rain and sunlight is expected on Thursday. In central and on the northeast will appear thunderstorms. A maximum 22 degrees and more sunlight on the southeast. And on Friday, temperature will range from 19 to 22 degrees. Thunderstorms is expected in central and on the south. Thank you for watching and goodbye.
Poland Daily Business Edition. One of the hottest topics in Europe right now is Brexit, and we will talk about Brexit with Lord Martin Callan, United Kingdom's Minister of Departure from European Union. Sir, welcome to the show. And let us say, how does it started? Because the referendum was an part of the process that started a couple of years ago. Was Britain discouraged by EU's handling on 2008 financial crisis?
I think there was a range of reasons for our departure. Excessive integration in the EU, too much regulation, the desire to create a United States of Europe that exists in many protagonists on behalf of the EU. British people didn't want that. They reacted against it and they voted to leave. We are a democracy and we as a government believe that result should be implemented, which is why now we are seeking to negotiate our departure from the EU because, of course, even though we are leaving the EU, we are not leaving Europe, and we want a close and harmonious working relationship both with the EU and, of course, with other EU member states.
Right, but I don't think the Polish public really knows what were the reasons, what were the discussions in the in UK. Obviously, we've heard about Britons not happy with Poles taking their jobs, which obviously was not the case, but that was the slogans. But maybe there were other things that were more important. Like, according to you, what were the main reasons why the British public decided to leave?
There are many different reasons. I mean, there were 17.5 million people who voted to leave, and maybe there are hundreds of different reasons, but in essence, I think it's about taking back control. It's the feeling that our laws, our money, our border should be controlled in Britain by Britain's elected representatives and not by sort of faceless bureaucrats in Brussels, is the popular characterization.
So the democratization of European Union would be
it's about fundamental democracy.
Okay. In a business-wise, is it very smart move to leave the common market of 500 million of customers? Are there any simulations of the financial costs to UK that will be concurred by this?
Well, there have been lots of different economic analyses, but we will only see the success of this policy, in my view, over many years, because, of course, we still want to maintain a close relationship with the European Union. We want to still continue trading with the common market, and we want to negotiate a relationship that will allow the common market to trade with the UK, because the UK will be the EU's largest trading partner after exit, and the EU will be the UK's largest trading partner. So we need to construct a relationship that works for both sides, that will enable tariff-free, quota-free, frictionless trade. But the advantage for the United Kingdom is that we can also negotiate better trading relationships with other parts of the world, with the United States, with the growing markets of Southeast Asia, etc., with the EU, which the EU has been quite bad at constructing trading relationships with.
That's true. Let's stay with the European Union. You are extending your proposals to the whole organization and to the individual countries. Are those trading proposals similar from country to country, or they are some tailored to the individual needs?
Well, of course, we have to. Trade policy is Poland has given away its trade policy to the European Union, and so we need to negotiate a relationship with the European Union as a whole, which involves dealing with the European Commission. So we have negotiated a withdrawal agreement, and we have negotiated a political declaration which sets the scene for what the trading relationship will be in the future. We want that to be as close as possible, as frictionless as possible, and which is quota-free and tariff-free.
Right. What about jobs in the United Kingdom after the Brexit? Will there be more jobs available or less?
Well, the United Kingdom economy is doing extremely well, and we're very proud of that. The economy has continued to grow. It's grown continuously for the last 9 years, including since the referendum. We have continued to create more jobs in the United Kingdom. We now have the lowest unemployment that we've had for 40 years. So the United Kingdom economy is doing extremely well, but of course we want to do better in the future.
Mm-hmm. You have this rural areas that the United Kingdom, the government is looking forward. Those areas had the support from the EU. Will the Brexit be somehow challenge this support?
Well, nobody has support from the EU. The UK is a net contributor to the European Union budget, so we get out something like £10 billion less from the EU budget than we pay into it. So, we are not a net beneficiary, so nobody gets net support from the European Union.
Mm-hmm, that's true, but overall, this, other nations think that this is an organization that makes sense in the business terms. Can you argue that it doesn't?
I'm not going to argue that nothing that the European Union does is good. Of course not. The construction of the internal market, the single market, was a great achievement, and we played a part in that. I think in many other areas of regulation and control, the EU has gone too far, but the single market remains a good achievement, and we want to continue to have a good relationship with the single market and with the EU in the future.
Very well. Anyway, thank you very much for the visit here in Katowice. Thank you very much for the visit at Telewizja Republika and the Poland Daily Business. Lord Martin Callan from the British Department of Exiting the European Union was our guest, and that was it for tonight's show.
I'm Aleksandra Zarzycka and welcome back to Poland Daily Weather. Let's take a look at the forecast for tomorrow. Heavy rainfall will be on the south, but otherwise it will be a very sunny day. Little rainfall is expected around Łódź, Poznań and Zielona Góra. Plenty of sunlight will appear along the Baltic coast. Temperature will range from 9 degrees in Gdańsk to 18 degrees in Lublin and Białystok. And now let's see tomorrow's forecast for the continent. In the Balkans, temperature will range from 22 to 25 degrees in Sofia. Temperatures will little fall in Scandinavia to 16 in Oslo and Stockholm and 13 in Helsinki. In British Islands, we may expect plenty of sunlight. There, the temperature will range from 16 to 18 degrees in London. The hottest capitals will be Madrid and Lisbon, with temperatures about 13 degrees. Thank you for watching and goodbye.
It was first built between 1671 and 1679 by Stanisław Heraclius Lubomirski to designs by the Dutch architect Tilman van Gameren. This complex included a garden. The town had passed to the Sieniawski family by 1706, when the palace and its surroundings were destroyed by Swedish troops during the Great Northern War. Reconstruction began under Elżbieta Sieniawska in 1722. Soon afterwards, Maria Zofia Czartoryska married August Alexander Czartoryski, and between 1731 and 1736, they built a new Rococo palace on the site to designs by Jan Zygmunt Dejbel. At the turn of the 18th and 19th centuries, Puławy was the center of political, cultural, and literary life. It happened thanks to Adam Kazimierz Czartoryski and his wife Isabella from Fleming, who brought the most outstanding artists, Jan Piotr Norblin, writers, Julian Ursin Nimcewicz, and architects, Christian Piotr Eigner, to the Puławski court. It was here, in the Temple of Sibyl of 1801 and the Gothic House of 1809, that the Duchess created the first museum in Poland. It has become the nucleus of a great collection cultivated to this day. At the end of the November uprising, the Czartoryski property was confiscated, and the Czartoryski family emigrated to Paris. In Puławy, the Alexandria Institute for the Education of Maidens was established, and subsequently the Polytechnic and Agricultural Forestry Institute and the Institute of Rural Land and Forests. Currently, the owner of the palace and park complex is the Institute of Soil Science.
Could you mention the most interesting exhibits that you have here in the museum, or the ones that are perhaps the most popular ones?
Tak naprawdę cała kolekcja księżnej Izabeli ma szczególnie wartość historyczną, ale też i sentymentalną. Jej pasje też powodowały to, że
The entire collection of Princess Isabella has a historical and sentimental value. Her passion made her do specific things, like stealing, in order to increase her collection. One of the stories can be the fragment of the skull of the Polish King Bolesław I the Brave, which she brought here from Poznań. The then writers described the situation. People who came with here from Puławy to Poznań were trying to distract others' attention so that Princess Isabella could steal our king's skull. Relics were a form of commemorating the most important figures in the history of Poland, including kings, hetmans, and national heroes. In our collection, we can see a fragment of a bone of Hetman Jan Karol Chodkiewicz, or ashes of Władysław Hetman and Bolesław III Wrymouth. So Princess Isabella loved to collect it with her passion. She was actually a maniac. She admitted it herself and wrote that she is sick because of her love for Poland. She was overcome by the collection mania. She forced people to buy her souvenirs. We can see a beautiful sculpture of the sleeping mountain lion, which was originally located in the entrance of the Puławscy family garden. At that time, Princess Isabella sent many letters to her son, Adam Jerzy Czartoryski, who was in Italy. She told him that she has to have the sculpture of the sleeping mountain lion because she has to have something ancient. But her son sent her something totally different. She got mad at him and told him that he acts exactly like people at the market in Łęczna because she got what she didn't want. Of course, I'm only paraphrasing her words, but that was the way she received some of the souvenirs. In the Krakow collection, there is an unforgettable Shakespeare's chair. She described the way of buying it in one of her letters. The child that was taking care of it didn't want to sell it. The girl even put it in her mouth because she didn't want to sell it to anyone. So these keepsakes belonged to Poland. They were very sentimental. I mentioned a branch of cider planted near the grave of the first president of the United States, or the buttons from his coat. In our exhibition, we have a small box which contains a lock of hair of the Polish king Zygmunt I, the old of a fragment of the robe which belonged to the hetman Stanisław Żółkiewicz.
Zygmunta Starego, czy też fragment szat hetmana Stanisława Żółkiewskiego.
Were all the keepsakes collected by Princess Izabela Czartoryska?
To są pamiątki zebrane przez księżną Izabelę Czartoryską. Ona często sama podróżowała, żeby te pamiątki zdobyć. Udawała się między innymi na Wawel.
Yes, these keepsakes were collected by Princess Izabela Czartoryska. She used it to travel a lot in order to collect as many as she could. She visited Wawel many times. Let's not forget that it was the time of Poland's partitions. The invaders were destroying kings' graves and the Wawel's graves. So the princess knew exactly what was going to happen. She had this gift that she felt the history. We can now watch the famous Wawel's heads in Krakow thanks to her. The Wawel's heads were located here in the collection of Izabela Czartoryska originally. There is a very interesting anecdote conveyed by the Puławy's guests or inhabitants of the Vistula residence. The princess put these heads in one of her rooms on the last floor in the palace where the court service used to live. But the court service couldn't sleep. They were afraid of these heads because they could talk. Because of that, Princess Isabella decided to move them into the Gothic house. So the stories associated with her purchases were very funny and diverse. She received many donations as well. So not only things she bought herself, but also donations which she got from the then most important representatives of our nation. She received gifts from the Prince Józef Poniatowski. She especially honored Prince Józef Poniatowski. When he died during the Battle of Leipzig, she decides to honor his memory and creates a monument from the black marble. It was located in the sanctuary in Sibylla. In the same sanctuary, Prince Józef's broadsword was hanged there, which he used in the Battle of Nations.
Tam też został zawieszony pałasz, który książę Józef trzymał w dłoni w trakcie właśnie Bitwy Narodów.
A z jakiego względu? What was the reason why she felt the sympathy towards him?
Księżna Izabela czciła głównie bohaterów narodowych. Współczesnym księżnej był wspomniany wcześniej książę Józef Poniatowski, ale też chociażby Tadeusz Kościuszko.
Princess Isabella honored mainly national heroes. At that time, one of them was Prince Józef Poniatowski and Tadeusz Kościuszko. The Czartoryski family supported the Kościuszko uprising, which is why their property was confiscated. The Puławy's goods were supposed to be stolen, but the Russian ambassador to Poland helped him. He told Princess Isabella to send her sons Adam, Jerzy, and Konstanty as hostages to the Tsar court to Petersburg. The Czartoryski family's property was not confiscated, but the family continued to support the national heroes, Józef Poniatowski and Tadeusz Kościuszko. The Czartoryski family honored past heroes of Poland. Poland as a kingdom of Poland, from times when we were winning every single battle. Princess Isabella introduced the widespread cult of King John III Sobieski. She had many keepsakes, even from Vienna. From this period of time, we have here in Puławy many things, like pillows bought on markets near Vienna, or such small items as Eastern sabers.
Czy też szable wschodnie.
Is most of the keepsakes of the Czartoryski family in Poland?
Yes, most of the keepsakes are in the Czartoryski Museum in Krakow. I hope that we will be able to see a beautiful exhibition at the end of the year, but part of it can be seen here in Puławy.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Poland Daily History. Today we are at the city of Warsaw, particularly the region that was transformed into the Jewish ghetto during the Second World War by the German occupants. Today we will be speaking with our guest, Mr. Artur Grubniewski, a tourist guide and historian about the 1,000 years of Polish Jewish history. During World War II, the Germans created many ghettos in which they imprisoned the Jewish population. And one of the biggest one is here in Warsaw. They are also known for holding one of the biggest uprisings where the Jews fought against the Germans. And I was wondering if you can tell me about the significance of said uprising and how people are commemorating it after the event.
So to clarify, the biggest ghetto and the biggest uprising of Jews against the Germans during World War II. So look, the significance seems to be so huge about this place. And that's why in nowadays Yad Vashem Museum in Jerusalem, the main field in the central section of that museum is Warsaw Ghetto Field. And there are two monuments next to which today's Israelis are celebrating or maybe commemorating their most important history facts, is right over there next to two monuments that are copies of the monuments from Warsaw. So there are two of them. There is the monument of Heroes of Ghettos Uprising, and in the central section of it we can see Mordechai Anielewicz, 23 years old leader of the uprising. Next to his left leg there is a man who already died. Then next to him there is another man who is protecting a child in his hands. Then on the left and the right of Mordechai Anielewicz, there are two teenagers, 14 and 16 years old, and above a lady who holds her child on a background of flames of burning ghetto. So the interpretation is following. It doesn't matter if you are young or old. It doesn't matter if you are a boy or a girl. It doesn't matter if you have something to fight with or not. You fight for your nation, you fight for your dignity, and you fight for your honor. This time in the field of human conflict, people were fighting another people not because of land, not because of resources, not because of religion, access to the sea, different point of view, religion, women. They were fighting for their dignity. They were fighting for their honor. And that's why when we take a look at that sculpture, the eyes of these people are empty. They are blank because they knew there was no hope to win it in a military way. They knew they were fighting for their dignity. Just steps away from that monument, there is the first Holocaust memorial that appeared in Poland on 19th of April 1946. So a year after World War II, Leon Suzin designed a round-shaped monument because round-shaped entrances to sewer systems are that were used by few people to escape from the ghetto during the uprising, and they were also used for smuggling. The monument is colored red because these soils were full with blood. 100 people were dying over there every day, which was 5 times less than Adolf Hitler's expectations. And then there are such metal commemorations. One of them is Hebrew letter Bet, written in a scroll of Torah. Torah starts with Bereshit section, which is the creation of the world, Bereshit. So these are the beginnings. And the scroll is connected with a palm leaf that represents suffering or glory. That was the first monument that appeared on 19th of April 1946. Then the mentioned Nathan Rappaport Monument of Heroes of Ghettos Uprising appeared. And on its other side, there are sculptured Jewish families, in the background German helmets and bagonets, and these people were marching to the death from one concentration camp to another concentration camp or straight to the gas chambers. That's why when we take a look at that sculpture, also of Leon Suzin, we can see a man in the middle holding Torah. His right hand is raised up to the God, and he asks this way. He's a rabbi, he holds Torah in his hand, and he says, I kept the rules, I did everything in a way you said, and that's what happens to me and my nation at the moment. We are walking to the gas chambers with the lady in front of me who's pregnant, and there is a 2-year-old girl in the back section of the sculpture, and the girl is looking back. And she's the only one who looks back, because on the way to the gas chambers there were plants, sometimes there were roses. So she saw roses on the first time in her life. Because in the ghetto, it was so crowded that there were just no green sections. The original area of the ghetto was established in a district that was constructed in late 1700s, early 1800s, so mostly industrial urban planning, very packed, very narrow streets, gates through which you were walking to another field or area. So this area in Warsaw was destroyed during World War II. Now we don't have it in Warsaw. We have communist urban planning over there, which is wide, spacious, wide pavement, sections for trees, access to the light for everyone. Communist urban planning was copied by the Brazilians when they constructed the city of Brasilia, there's nowadays capital. They said that communist solutions from Warsaw are very nice for living circumstances, and that's true. One of the people who was involved in constructing constructing and designing the city of Brasilia was Daniel Libeskind. So, once again, the person who designed Freedom Tower, Ground Zero in New York, or Holocaust Museum in Berlin, Polish Jew, born on 12th of May 1946 in Łódź, so the city of Artur Rubinstein, Israel Poznański and his amazing factories over there.
The uprising in the Warsaw Ghetto lasted for 27 days, much longer than combatants on both sides had expected at the moment it broke out. Next up, we will ask Mr. Gronewski about the events surrounding the tragic fall of the uprising and legacy it has left behind.
You were saying that the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising is the biggest revolt and the biggest example of the Jewish resistance. And I was wondering, how did it end? And was it a very tragic ending, I can imagine?
Yes, of course. The moment when officially the uprising ended was marked personally by Jürgen Stroop, who personally blew up European biggest synagogue in Tłomackie, which was right outside Jewish ghetto wall. And all the people from the ghetto could see this synagogue throughout their imprisonment in the ghetto. And this was giving them hope that they will come back to this place one day. And the synagogue was located in current Bankowy Square, in front of our seat of the mayor of the city, by the way. And during one of the night of the museums in Warsaw, so the night where you can see all the museums, when I went into our mayor's office, on her desk, she had a little replica of that synagogue. Also, that was her idea, and she enabled it to happen. That the Polin Museum was constructed in 2012, opened in 2014, and it was given European Best Museum Award 2016. How did it end the uprising? A few people escaped. For instance, Mark Edelman. Mark Edelman, he was a doctor before World War II, and then he survived ghetto uprising. Then he was participating in Warsaw Uprising 1944, and then he stayed in Warsaw till the end of his life. To one of anniversaries of uprising in the ghetto, he brought daffodils, such yellow flowers, and in Polish these are żonkile, and this flower became a symbol of uprising in the ghetto. And today, every year, this flower is all over the city, and it's also planted and it grows in all the area of the ghetto. These yellowish flowers brought by Mark Edelman are also symbolizing his very important statement. His famous quotation is, "It is easy to hate, but love requires sacrifice and effort." And that's what a Jew that survived the uprising said. That's what a Pole that survived both of the uprisings said. And he's buried in a Jewish cemetery in Warsaw with his wife. And that's what you can see over there, his quotations and amazing history of the Polish Jews.
As we can see, Poland has been for centuries the safe haven for Jews fleeing persecution. During the 18th and 19th centuries, the city has the largest amount of Jewish population in all of Europe. The two nations coexisted in peace until the Germans conducted the Holocaust. That's it for today. I'm your host, Benjamin Lee. I'll see you next time on Poland Daily History.
Łazienki Park, Łazienki Park Królewskie. Those names mean something to everyone in Poland. This green expanse is inseparable from the history not only of Warsaw, but of the country. It is here that leisure time is spent by families, friends, lovers, students, and sportsmen. It's a park for everyone, but it didn't start out that way. It started out as the very special province of the Lubomirski family. Later, King Poniatowski made the park his own, and it was really during the late 18th century that the greater proportion of buildings were constructed. There is the Palace on the Water, of course, a classic building of its kind, not only in Poland, but in Europe. The palace seems to float on an island in its reflecting pools. Meanwhile, the 70-odd park is a conglomeration of forest and lake and sculpted gardens, dominated on one end by the ancient Ujazdowski Castle and on the other by the Belvedere Palace, the residence of the president. The park remains the greenest spot in any city in Poland, and as a park comparable to the best of those in any capital in Europe. So sit back as Poland Daily Travel takes you for a tour of the highlights of Łazienki Park in the heart of beautiful downtown Warsaw. Poland Daily Travel brings you the best and most comprehensive programming about travel in Poland that you're ever likely to find. Watch Poland Daily Travel and like us on YouTube, and if you really like us, subscribe. So let's watch A Walk in the Park with Poland Daily Travel in Łazienki Królewskie in beautiful downtown Warsaw.
Hello everybody, and we're back. Peter and I just having a nice stroll through the park on a not quite a perfect day, but if you like wind, it's a perfect day. We've got this wind from the south, apparently up from Africa, which is going to change the weather, and it'll be hot, hot tomorrow, but to now it's a bit breezy. Why are we walking particularly here, though? Because you had something you wanted to show me.
Yes, indeed. We are just going to we're just going to have a look at the Polish king, which is John III Sobieski. And speaking openly, this is one of the most educated kings that Poland ever had. He's also able to deliver a very, very fine victory for us, the Polish people.
The Battle of Vienna.
The Battle of Vienna. How did you know? That's the question.
Because it's really famous, and all my Polish friends who who like to talk about history, they tell me about Jan Sobieski and the Battle of Vienna, and defeating the Turks and the Polish hussars.
Yeah,
riding through their camp.
Yeah, I must admit that this is one of the victories that we have achieved by far in Poland. The truth is that this is one of the first moments that we had coffee brought to Poland. Let's say this is one of the little exotic details that not a lot of people know about. I would like us to take a look at the statue of John III.
Let's walk over there. Let this truck go by, because we're out here. You got bicycles, you got trucks, so you got students, everybody's here talking about various things.
A very popular spot, one of the most popular because of the view that we are also having at the back.
Well, we're gonna get to that. There's a lot of kids here having a
regular excursion.
Having a day out.
Which, this is the right thing to be happening in this time of the year.
They all come to here to see Jan Sobieski, don't they?
Absolutely.
Okay, let's look at this. This is an interesting monument. And they've got him here. He's looking very dynamic, isn't he?
Yes, yes. It is looking dynamic, and I would like you to pay attention to a couple of details. Details which will be very significant, and they would betray a certain conflict, conflict of two great powers, which in this particular moment we speak, as you said, about Vienna being taken under siege by the Turks, which means that the Christians would fight the Muslims.
Right.
And this is a pattern that will be very, very visible in all the pieces of art coming from the 18th century, that the Christian Lord would be a bit glorified, like we have here, and the Muslim will be
Is that a Muslim under his horse?
I'm afraid so. Yeah, this is a Muslim.
Lord.
And then couple of details. So please notice the Christian Lord will be presented pretty much almost like Hercules, like the unbeaten hero that has achieved great victory. He's, after all, sitting.
He's got big arms and
he's
very stout.
looking like a Roman soldier. That's
does,
one thing.
yeah.
Secondly, he's sitting on a lion's skin instead of a saddle.
Ah, it's a lion skin.
It's a lion skin. This is something. The lion skin is very characteristic for Hercules.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
After all, this is something from his story.
Yeah.
Then another thing, he's going to have thick facial hair, thick mustache. Every Christian at the 18th century, the prestigious one, would have
18th or 17th.
18th century, 1700s.
That's when this was made.
Exactly.
But the battle was 100 years before and more.
Absolutely. So I can confirm that pretty much both of the centuries is something that you may have the facial hair presented as a trend. Then, in comparison, the Christian Lord is looking very majesticus. The Muslim is presented almost naked. It's you can almost pretty much see the jewels if it's not for the piece of cloth. Of course, he's being knocked down to the ground, and it's not a very, very good situation for him. It's supposed to expose that John III Sobieski is a person that is a king, as a great leader, leading the war. He is also the one to achieve success.
Wow.
John III Sobieski knocking the Muslim
Jan Sobieski in Polish, right?
I'm sorry, Jan
right?
III Sobieski. This is was one of the most well-known Polish kings, and as I mentioned, the Vienna victory is supposed to be presented with this very monument.
Yeah, over the Turks at the Battle of Vienna in 1683.
Absolutely.
Is that right?
Yes, yes, correct.
I remembered it. Finally, I remembered something. It's Poland Daily. Stay with us. We'll be back after this short break. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Poland Daily. We are standing on the longest bridge in Poland. The question is, it's not really the longest bridge, but it's a joke. What's the joke?
The joke is that we are going to have the John III Sobieski, the very gentleman that we were filming a moment ago. He would enter the bridge hundreds of years ago, and by far he would only reach
the middle.
Half of its length.
Half of its length. I like how you say that. Half of its length. In the middle. He's in the middle. Stuck in the middle with you, he could say to us. Behind us is something worth talking about. This is one of the most interesting small palaces in the whole of Europe. And it won't surprise you to know that it's called the Palace on the Water, because as you can see, it seems to be floating on the water. We're going to go there a little closer, but maybe we should give the people a little intro to the palace there, Peter. What do you think?
The Palace on the Water, as you stated, Will, this is the original name. It is, you may say, the pearl of this city's architecture. It's a building that has not been damaged during the war, a building that still remembers the presence of the king. By the way, it has been designed by the very king's requests. Besides all of that, it's a place which is put and installed on the water, so you have a very nice lake at the back and in the one in the front. To addition to all of that, the whole area surrounding the palace, the park, it's not just a place where you walk your dog off, it's one of the most prestigious locations. And so, to addition to all of that, the landscape, the architecture, this is fantastic. This is something that I would like to say a little bit more once we'll be on the spot.
Okay, so the Palace on the Water, you said that the building was not destroyed during the war, but in fact there was a plan to destroy it, wasn't there? Didn't they drill holes in the wall and they were going to put dynamite in it to blow it up like they did the Royal Castle?
Yes, Will.
And why did they not get to that? Do you know? Because I don't know.
Yes, so The story is as you're presenting it. So the Nazi ones at the beginning, they are coming here and they are trying to use it.
Is that your phone?
Yes, I was
just answer and tell them you're on television.
Yeah. So
hello, I'm on TV.
And then we are going to have the Nazi ones. They've used it, but then the Russians in the 1942 they are coming to the edge of the city of Warsaw. Once this is happening, this very place is no longer safe for the Nazi to use.
Okay.
This is why it has survived. In terms of all the
details,
details,
didn't have time to blow it up.
Exactly.
And probably they left it last because, in fact, during the war, if my memory is correct, no Poles were allowed in the park. It was a province only of the Germans.
Absolutely.
And they controlled all the fine buildings that we're going to see. So stay with us, Poland Daily. We're going to the palace on the water, and all is good on a very beautiful day. Poland Daily. Hey, if you like us on YouTube and subscribe if you're one of those subscription addicts. Peter is. So am I.
Stay with us.